Okay, this video is about how to make a fireball shoot out of the wall and come past you and hit the other side of the wall and blow up pretty much and show the smoke effect. And if you get in its way, you'll lose some power. And then once you grab the key and go through 2 doors, then there's going to be like a placeholder that you won't be able to see. And once you cross that and pick up the second weapon, then the fireball is going to stop making a noise by crashing into the wall, and it's going to completely pretty much destroy the fireball, because then you go down this long hallway and you're able to go down another corridor area, and basically it's another room, but you would not be able to do that if you didn't get rid of the fireball. Okay, so let me show you what I'm talking about. And see how the fireball keeps coming. It's going to keep coming after it hits the wall. And see, you lose power there. Gain the key. Gain health. And it goes down this long corridor. It comes out and hits the other side of the wall. And blows up. Then when you pass the placeholder right here, which is invisible, it stops making that noise. And the fireball has stopped. It won't come down the corridor now because I pretty much destroyed it once you cross a placeholder that you can't see. And then you're able to go down the hallway here where the fireball was shooting out at. And there's another area where you wouldn't be able to go to unless you destroyed the fireball. So there's another room in here which you can pretty much, I guess, make to go to the next room if you wanted to. And so there's the heated wall, and so if I touch that heated wall, I will lose health and die. Okay, so let me show you how I did this. So this is me right here, the player object, and then that's the door you have to get the key from. This line right here is the placeholder, which pretty much destroys the fireball and makes the sound stop, because you don't want the sound to keep hitting the wall. So you could go down this corridor. That's why I put a placeholder here, because you could go down all through this corridor here and go through this room here, and you would still hear that fireball sound hit that wall. So I made the fireball be destroyed, and it made the sound stop too. And so it goes. This is a long corridor that the fireball comes down. This is the fireball, this white square. This red line represents another wall which has the fire on it, and it's a background texture, which is texture firewall. Excuse me. Now I try to animate this background, but I can't. For some reason you cannot animate a background. There might be a way of doing it, but I'm not sure how to do that. And I tried to make it an object, and I couldn't make it work either to animate it. So it's just a static image of a heated wall. And then this right here, this is another wall. For some reason I had to make another put another wall here behind this firewall, because he was going through it for some reason. So this will prevent him from going through the firewall when I put another vertical wall there behind it. I tried to do a couple things, like the code setup where I have it parented to the object wall basics, which basically means that when he comes up close to the wall, he'll stop and not move anymore. But for some reason that didn't seem to work for the firewall, so I had to put one of these regular walls behind the firewall for him not to go through it. Okay, so let me show you what I did. So we'll talk about the placeholder first for destroying the fireball and the sound. So basically, it's all it is a I just made X and Y coordinates, X 16, Y is 4, and so it's just another. It's pretty much another regular wall. Well, actually, it's not really a wall because I have it parented to a object wall. So if I made it visible, which is not, it would be flat on the floor because I don't have it set to object wall basics. And the object wall basics has all the coordinates in it to make it rotate up. So there's no parent on that because I don't. It's just a placeholder. So when I walk across this object destroy firebox, which is a placeholder, then it will destroy the fireball and the sound as well. And it's not visible. And so the object player, once he crosses the object destroy firebox, it will destroy the object fireball box, which is the fireball itself right here, which is the object fireball box. And this is what makes, in this box right here, I have a draw code in there which will draw the fireball. Okay, let me talk about the object firewall vertical, and then I will go into the object firewall box. So with object firewall vertical, I just went to made this apparent to the object wall basics, which I've talked about in other previous videos. And so the object wall basics means it draws this code out right here, so it pretty much rotates it a certain degree and stretches the image out to a certain degree, and so it just rotates it up, so it's a wall. When you look at it, it's pretty much wall. So it's parented to that object wall basics. And then in the code, you got the X and Y and Z coordinates. So the object wall basic is pretty much saying that he won't go through the wall pretty much. And so this code right here pretty much flips it to being vertical. So it looks like a wall. It doesn't look flat. It doesn't look like a floor. It looks like a wall itself. So this code makes it flip up. It flips the flat object from being a floor object to a wall object. It flips it up. So that's what that code does pretty much. And it's parented. Then I have text. The background gets texture wall, which is the texture firewall, which is the image right here. With 128, height 128, same as the height on the doors and all, and the actual wall itself. Excuse me. And then make it visible, of course, and see the object wall. When he hits it, then it basically makes him stop at the wall. That's what that does. Why it's parented to the firewall. But for some reason, even when I had it parented to the firewall, it still seemed like he went through it. I don't know why. That's why I had to put this gray vertical wall here. And it had this gray vertical wall has the same attributes as the firewall, but for some reason he goes through it. So that's why I had to put an extra wall behind the firewall so it doesn't go through the wall. It's kind of weird. Okay, so then now let me talk about the fireball itself. So in this sprint here, in the texture file, I have the fireball, and I modified it to precise, and it does animate a little bit. And So it's the same kind of setup as if when I drew out the gun and the plant and all that stuff. It's just got the same attributes to it. So in the object fireball box, I have a crate, I have the set variable set to image underscore speed, values at 0.3. It just means how fast it's going to animate through the pictures it has. Then I do have start movement, so it's going to move left at 4 speeds. So it's going to move down the corridor of the walls and hit the other side of the wall and blow up. And when it hits the collision with the player object, he's going to lose health minus equals 20. He's going to lose that much health, and I had it set to object hands. And then also and you probably didn't have to have this set to object hands. You probably could just have it set to self, because it is the object player. It's going after not the images of what he has in his hands. So if I change that to self, let me see what happens when if that works or not. Let me just make sure I'm telling you right here. Yeah. So, I mean, you can leave it the way it is. It's set up to, you can set it to self. You don't have to set it to object hands, because it's going after the player object, which is that round circle, white circle. And then when it does, and then what it happens, okay, then when it does hit the object hands, it's going to change the face icon at the top. Which, like I said, this could be set to self. Yes, he still loses life. He still loses life when you set it to self. Okay, so like I said, just set it to self. Set it to self for losing health. Set it to self, and then, because it doesn't matter what you have, it doesn't matter what weapon you have in your hand, just set it to self, and then the face is going to flicker to he can hit. And then when then all of a sudden you have the jump to start, so the jump to start is going to be in the move tab. So if once the fireball hits you, then it's going to jump back to the starting position where it shot out of the wall at. And when it hits you again, then it's going to go back to where it was originally and shoot out, because it's going to repeat this process every time. So keep repeating every time it hits either yourself or the wall. It's going to repeat until when you cross that placeholder, then it's going to completely destroy it. And the same thing applies with the object wall. Once the fireball hits the object wall, once it hits this wall right here, it's going to jump back to this position and fire another fireball until it hits this wall again, and then it's going to jump back to that same position again. And you want that to happen. You want it to repeat. Otherwise, it's just going to happen one time and that's it. And then it's going to do the object fire explosion. So this instance will be created once it hits the wall. It's going to do the object fire explosion, and I got that code from when I hit the when you hit the barrel. When you hit the barrel, it does the explosion too. See? So in the barrel, I have the same thing, instant create explosion. So when you hit the barrel, then it does the explosion part. So I pretty much mimicked what the barrel does. So when you hit the barrel, it does the same explosion, and when the fireball hits the wall, it does the same explosion. It does the same animation. So it's pretty much it's grabbing the animation from the barrel to do the explosion. That's what it's doing. I have that set up that way I don't have to remake another image for the fireball explosion. I can just use the explosion from the barrel to do the same thing, do the same effect to the fireball. That way I don't have to waste extra space to create a new image and animate another red smoke effect when it hits the wall. I can just reuse the explosion from the barrel to do the fireball. So I'm just grabbing that code from the barrel to do the fireball, to do the explosion part anyways. So I don't have to create the explosion mist again and waste more extra image space on my computer when I can just repeat the process from using the barrel effect. And then when it hits the barrel, then it's going to explode. So the fireball is going to explode, but not the barrel, and then it's going to repeat in the same location. I could potentially destroy the barrel too once the fireball hits the barrel, but it's kind of redundant because you want it to hurt you. The barrel is pretty much going to hurt you if you use your knife and you're too close to it. I don't want it's kind of useless if you have the fireball hitting the barrel and then the barrel blows up with the fireball, because what's the point of having the barrel there if it's going to be destroyed just like that once the fireball hits it. So I just had the fireball being destroyed by the barrel instead of having the barrel be exploded as well as the fireball. So the fireball is going to will be extinct once it hits the barrel as well and jump back to the same position. But at the same time, I'll do the explosion point, and I'll do the explosion point animation too, just like it did on the wall. And it just creates the instance as well. It does the fire effect, the explosion effect once the fireball hits the barrel. It does the same thing. It does the same effect as if it hit the wall itself. It would do the fire explosion, and then the fireball would jump back to the same. It would jump back to the position it was when you first played the game. So it doesn't actually destroy the fireball. It just makes it jump to the original position, and then comes down the corridor again. Then it jumps. Then it pretty much does the fire effect and destroys it in a way, but then it pretty much jumps back to the position where it was originally when it comes down the corridor. Then you have the draw effect, and it's the same, pretty much same code as I used for the plants and the barrels. It's the same code. The only thing I changed was I think these numbers right here. I changed this to 10, and I think this stayed 6 on the other. I just left this alone 6, but I did change this number to 10, and then I changed this to 20, and then changed this down here to 8. So this basically, I think by changing these numbers, it pretty much stretches the fireball out, makes it larger, and it also changes the position of where it's located at when it's coming out of the wall. Before I changed these, I think these numbers were a 0 or something originally, and it made the fireball was too small, and it was shooting way too low from the wall. So I had to raise it up and make it bigger. So that's what I did. I stretched it out a little bit and made it a little larger. So these numbers were changed here to do that. And the fireball is set to -20, and I think that's about it. So this is a different type of animation where it's actually moving down, physically moving down from one point to the next. It's not just a animated sprint, and it's not moving. This is actually moving down moving down from one point to moving down to the other point physically. And so I wanted to show you how to do that. And I think what I'm going to do on my next video is I'm going to go back to Studios and talk about how to do a rain effect from bird's eye view, and how to do fade in using code versus I'm using images. Because I talked about how to fade in using images, but if you want to consolidate space and not have too much space when you're, you want to reduce your size of your app, then I wouldn't use images, I would use code. And that's what I'm talking about, is how to use code to fade in from one room to the next. And like I said, I'll talk about how to do animated, like 3D rain from a bird's eye view perspective. And then maybe I'll talk about how to do light, how light can follow a player from one area to the next if it's in a dark room, and how to have light bend around corners and stuff like that. I might talk about that too, and then jump back to Fake 3D and talk about other things I've talked about before, or we'll be talking about, which is like spikes and pits and heated floors and another bad guy and bosses and health bars, stuff like that, and then how to move to the next room, and then we'll go from there. Alright, thanks for watching.